This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Classic Marvel Star Wars comics with Randy Martinez, with Pooges, Jackson, Crimson Jack, and Sergi X, and Don Juan Quixote. Classic Marvel Star Wars comics.
At last, beyond the movie, beyond the galaxy. This is the tagline on the cover of each issue of the Marvel Star Wars comics from 1977 and beyond. I am Richard Woloski, and I want to welcome you all to Classic Marvel Star Wars comics. Now, I'm here to take you through the story, share memories of reading the series as a kid, and to make sure you younger fans know the names Jackson, Crimson Jack, and Sergi X.
Am I one of your younger fans?
Of course you are. You were born post-Marvel Star Wars comics.
That's true. So I am Sarah Woloski, and this, of course, is the show where we take you through each issue of the vintage comic series from the 70s and 80s. So none of those newer comics, just these vintage ones. And since I'm reading these for the very first time, I'm a newbie, so I'll give you my fresh perspective on these comics.
And I'm Randy Martinez. I actually was here to cut the lawn, and they invited me in.
We really appreciate it. The check is in the mailbox.
Actually, I'm a Star Wars artist, and I'm here to give my unique insight on the art and the goings-on of the comic book, and as well as my memories and my childhood stories revolved around these Marvel Star Wars comics.
That's right, because you, Randy, you and Richard are about the same age.
Yeah.
Oh, Richard's much older.
I prefer to call it wisdomed.
Okay.
How much older?
A lot.
Okay.
A lot.
If you don't want to say.
You know what? That's okay. I'm vintage. I know it. But I was there to see Star Wars in the movie theater, okay? Mic drop.
Pretty much.
Well, so was I. So that makes me 23.
Which Star Wars? I know.
Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, right?
All right. We all know now that I'm the oldest, Randy comes second, and coming in way in third is you, Sarah.
Yes.
Now, before we move on with this episode, Randy, you had posted a question up on your Facebook page and wanted some fan input. So go ahead and tell us what that question was.
Yeah, well, I am currently I'm toying with the idea of going to Celebration Orlando next summer, and haven't made 100% confirmation about it yet, but I went ahead and showed some interest, and so I am working on some concepts for art, and so because the trip is a big commitment, and of an investment, so I have to really think about what I'm going to sell. So with that in mind, I always like asking the fans a little bit input, a little market research, and what kind of things would you like to see from me at Celebration Orlando. Now, keep in mind, I am an artist of artists, and I do like to pretty much do what I like to do, but I do take input, and I do listen to what everybody says. And while I might not do exactly what you suggest, it does go into my head and mix around with everything else out, along with my own ideas. Something does come out of it. So know that your suggestions are very much appreciated.
What was the most popular piece of input you got from the fans on your Facebook page?
So far, and the funny thing is, and this is a perfect example of what I was saying, what you say does go into my head. The celebrating of 40 years of Star Wars, I didn't even think of that when I sat down to come up with concepts. It's going to be 40 years since Star Wars came out in 1977. So there's two ways to think about that. You can look at it as it's the 40-year anniversary of A New Hope, of course, or back then it was just Star Wars. And or you can consider it 40 years of Star Wars. So there's two different ways to look at that. And I'd be interested to see what the fans think about that, too, how they think of it.
I love that idea.
40 years of Star Wars?
I love the idea that there's two different points of view here. And I'm always thinking vintage. So I'm thinking something Grauman's Chinese Theater, footprints, people waiting in line,
See, I'm thinking of Luke, a young Luke from 77, handing off his lightsaber to Rey. Like, in actuality, like, not just the hand and not just,
Something that really bridges the...
Yeah, bridges that gap.
The vintage to today.
Yeah.
Well, both great ideas. There are some guidelines that I should let you guys know and the fans know. Things are... they're very particular about the things that they approve, because part of what you have to do is it's a 2-step process to get into a celebration. This is good information. A lot of people might not know this for an artist. You have to write in and show some interest that you would like to do this show. And you have to prove that you have done some sort of official artwork for Lucasfilm. That's number one. And so I did that. I sent in my resume. It was... I'm very proud of the resume that I send in.
At this point, they don't already know?
That's how committees, Yeah. And but the great thing about that, sometimes when you do a resume, after a while, you don't realize all the stuff that you've done. And it's like, wow, I'm pretty proud of that, Yes. So I did that. So I'm pretty confident I'm going to get past that first draft of judging. And then the next thing you do is you have to submit a concept idea. Okay, so the concept has to be something interesting, of course, but it also has to fall within their guidelines. And they are actually very strict about things as far as what you are allowed to create as an illustration. So, and things have changed a lot over the years, especially since they moved to Disney and they started doing a lot more movies. They're very protective of the brand, so they don't want their images in any way that they don't want them to. So, for instance, back in 2007, I did Sith Rocks. It was the Sith playing heavy metal music, right? That was my poster.
Right.
And nowadays, that would never go. Totally different, because they don't want, they're very particular about that kind of stuff.
Right.
So pretty much what we can do is anything that falls into canon, as far as it is now and how Disney has set it, and basically anything in the movies, but it also has to make sense.
Right. No interpretations.
Yeah, no interpretations, and you can't have a scene of, let's say, Padme and Rey fighting side by side against stormtroopers. Like, they wouldn't let that go because that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
You could do a montage of all the women of Star Wars and things like that. But speaking of montages, I'm one who likes to kind of stay away from that because a lot of people do montages.
Yeah.
Right.
But sometimes you can do montages without them being actual montages. So,
well, seeing how they're going to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Star Wars, I think you're pretty safe doing something to celebrate 40 years of Star Wars.
See, I like that. I like that idea too.
Yeah, and I think that would double your sales. Because everyone's going to be so excited about 4 complete decades of Star Wars.
Yeah, and that's the thing I have to think about too in terms of marketing. If I were to do like a really cool, print of, say, Boba Fett, right, which I actually have not done an official celebration print of Boba Fett before, mostly because everybody does that. But if I do that, then I'm really only targeting people who really like Boba Fett, as opposed to if I have something represented from all 4 decades.
Yeah.
There's a little something for everybody, but it's about doing it creatively. There are some artists like Jason Palmer who do montages. They're beautiful. He definitely has that market cornered, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to compete with him on that level, doing montages. But, I like to be creative and try to make sure that my compositions and my concepts really stand out. But like I said, I do always appreciate the fan input and hear what you guys are thinking about, and it does influence what I think. So,
well, if you want to go with this Grauman's Chinese Theater idea, I don't need any credit. Just hide me in the crowd like Waldo. That's all I ask. Now, if fans and the listeners and the Skywalkers have ideas, where should they send them to?
You can go all over the place. Go to my Facebook page. Go to it's Hollywood Randy. Look for Hollywood Randy on Facebook. You can also, of course, go to Twitter, which is Randy_Martinez, or my Instagram, which is Randy Martinez 40. I know it's annoying. They're all different tags, but I came along in the game too late and I couldn't get them all matching. So
yeah, I hear you.
All right, good deal. Well, I'm really looking forward to what you have in store for us, because I loved your Darth Vader with borders you did for Celebration Anaheim.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was considering continuing that, but I think as an artist, I'm beyond that.
Okay.
In terms of my inspiration goes. It was a cool idea, but I think I've moved on since then.
All right, well, you know what? Speaking of moving on, let's now move on to the show and tell everyone where we left off with our last episode, where we covered issue number 10, Behemoth from the World Below.
Let's do it.
Okay. Han Solo, Chewbacca, and the hired guns battle Sergi X and the great Godzilla-like beast, which is the Behemoth. I mean,
Behemoth.
The Behemoth. Okay, I still don't get that. Grabbing the lightsaber from Don Juan Quixote's hands, Han kills the beast with the Jedi weapon, but not before the Behemoth squashes Sergi under its foot. Han and his band of mercenaries save the village from the attack, but not without cost. Meanwhile...
Randy?
Meanwhile,
Thank you.
Luke Skywalker informs Leia Organa that he has found a new location for the Rebel Alliance base in the Drexel system. But the transmission suddenly ends, and worried Leia sets out to find Luke. Luke!
That's Beru's line.
Oh, they recycle lines in Star Wars all the time.
That's true.
Yeah, just different actors, different voices.
Right.
Now, in this episode, we are diving into Star Wars number 11, Star Search.
All right.
Now, the last issue didn't give this one a preview title like normal,
no.
only to change it later on. It just said, Star Wars continues with the search for Luke Skywalker.
Well, I think that's a title.
No.
Search for Luke Skywalker.
It was more of a preview of the theme. It wasn't the title, as
Okay.
what I'm understanding. But Star Wars continues with the search for Luke Skywalker. Where have we heard that before?
I don't know.
A little film called The Force Awakens?
Oh! Duh. Oh my god. Whoa.
I know, Sarah, you were getting hung up on the title Star Search, but it does not refer to the 1980s Ed McMahon America's Got Talent
That I never saw
talent show.
because I was too young.
From Hollywood, it's the world's greatest talent competition. It's Star Search.
Yeah, I know what we were all thinking. Hey, they borrowed the
You're
title.
dating yourself, Richards, mentioning Star Search.
But when I saw that title, I thought, oh, did Star Wars take that title from the show? But then I looked it up, and Star Search premiered in 1983. So we're all safe. So if
okay.
anything, Star Search stole from Star Wars.
Okay.
Had to be said. I know all the vintage fans are out there going, hey, wait a minute, we need clarification. There you go. Now, this issue was released on February 7th, 1978, and was the first issue written by Archie Goodwin, and the consulting editor is Roy Thomas. Now, the penciler, this name may sound familiar, Carmine Infantino. Now, he had taken over for Howard Chaykin and brings a lot of clout to the Star Wars series. He was the one that kicked off the Silver Age of comics with The Flash in 1956, and later convinced Captain America, Hulk, and X-Men creator Jack Kirby to move from Marvel to DC.
Wow.
What did that conversation go like?
That's big.
You have someone who created all these iconic Marvel characters. What did he say to Jack Kirby to say, you know what, come on over here to DC?
He said, we'll pay you.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Pay you twice as much.
We'll pay you and let you keep your art. That's pretty much all he had to say.
See, Randy, that's why you're here.
Yes. Wow.
All right, now, this issue here picks up as Han and Chewie blast away from a Duba 3.
Pew, pew, pew. Okay. So everything is smooth sailing until they run into an old friend, the man that rocks the unitard like no other, my favorite, Crimson Jack.
Hey, wait a minute. I take umbrage with that. I
Why?
can rock a unitard like that.
Well, that's
AKA
right.
Richard will ask.
Right?
Thank you. That's all I wanted to hear.
So Crimson Jack and his band of space pirates apprehend Han and Chewie yet again. However, they aren't the only ones Jack has captured. He has managed to also kidnap Princess Leia as she was out looking for Luke Skywalker and is holding her for ransom. So, Using his fast-talking talents, Han tells Jack of the rebels' secret treasure, but he has to keep everyone alive if he wants to get his hands on it.
All right, Randy, give us your famous line.
Meanwhile,
Luke and the droids have crashed in an ocean on a planet in the Drexel system. And if that wasn't bad enough, now he has to battle a sea beast if he wants to make it to the next issue.
Will he make it? Who knows?
We'll know soon enough. Now, Randy, what are your initial thoughts on this issue number 11 as a whole?
as a whole, I actually really like this one. I'm liking the direction that it's going. It actually feels a lot more in the Star Wars universe than the Seven Samurai or Magnificent Seven takeoff. I'm sure this has a lot of overtones of other stories, but there's something about it that feels a little bit more like it belongs in the timeline of actual Star Wars things.
Okay. Sarah, what are your initial thoughts on this issue?
I absolutely agree with you, Randy, and I have to say that getting further deeper into this episode, well, there's Crimson Jack, there's Han and Leia flirting, there's Han and Leia kissing, and there's Luke battling a sea creature, and so all those three things combine to make one hell of an episode.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. What about you, Richard?
Well, you know what? I was hoping, per the cover, that we were going to go and follow Luke Skywalker a little bit more. This is supposed to be the transition issue from Han's story over to Luke and Leia and the Rebellion. And we do get that, but Han Solo's story is more 3/4 of this issue, and Luke only has a couple of pages toward the end, which is very a la Force Awakens. Only in this issue, he actually has some lines.
Yes.
Now, I do love some very 1970s callbacks to plot points, to references, to the giant sea creature we see at the very end. And you holiday special fans know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Settle down. All they do is eat. You are foolish to waste your kindness on this dumb creature.
And now, let's talk about the cover art. I always love doing this. Now, this was done by Gil Kane and Tony DeZanuga. Now, Randy, tell us what you're seeing artistically in this cover.
Artistically, very colorful. The yellow, which I don't really use that much for things. It's a very difficult color to use without being kind of annoying. But it's used very well, along with the dark blue behind the Star Wars logo there. It really pops. It's good for selling-wise in terms of it being... You know how they used to put it in the racks where you just see the title?
Right.
Oh.
You know, that's important stuff to think about when you're designing the cover, you know?
Good point.
And they're a little more aware of that nowadays. In this, I'm talking about relative to this certain comic. But I like the orange, the made-up kind of snake worm thing there, and a lot of action. It's good composition, and everything leads you through up to Luke, leading you pointed at the snake. It's illustrated pretty well. There's some questions about the details on R2 and C-3PO, or as I like to call him, Tron C-3PO.
Right?
Oh, he's got the disc on his back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot of questions I have for you later on about R2-D2.
yeah, but I like this cover. I think it's really cool. I think, like I said, normally I wouldn't choose the yellow background, but I think with the Star Wars lettering with the blue, and also it's balanced by the yellow in C-3PO, as well as the word bubble and the fate of Luke Skywalker.
Now, seeing how Luke is in this issue very, very, in a very limited scene, why do you think they chose to go with Luke instead of Han Solo?
Well, because everything has been about Han Solo to that point in the comics, and I don't want to say they're fooling you because they do put it in there, but I think the editor is probably saying, okay, now it's time to start talking about Luke Skywalker.
Right,
put him on a cover.
Yeah, that was my thoughts exactly. I think the kids were very anxious to see more characters, and I know when I saw this cover as a kid, I loved it because it told me that we're moving on from Han and Chewie's story, and the Star Wars world will start to broaden out by this point. And I loved that yellow sky. Because every issue, we'd always seen the black, starry sky where Han and Chewie are fighting some monsters or creatures or whatever. The background was always so dark. But I recall as a kid just flipping out over this yellow background.
How funny. You know what, Alice in Wonderland? You know how she eats pills that make her grow small or grow big?
Right.
Yes.
Well, to me, that monster worm creature,
The sea serpent.
the sea serpent, is like a Dianoga who ate an Alice pill that made him grow really large. Because if you think about it, people who are just reading this comic have just seen the movie where the Dianoga pulls Luke down, and so now you're seeing Luke fighting this giant creature that kind of, I mean, it's not like a Dianoga because it doesn't have a giant eye, but it's worm-like.
I think these creatures are very reminiscent of other characters you would see in the Marvel Universe or on comic book covers and in a lot of Planet of the Apes cartoon series that you always had to have that big giant monster to pull the kids in.
Oh.
Now, Randy, as a kid, when you saw a giant monster like this, I know we've talked about it on past shows, was that a selling point for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, every time I ever saw, the Godzilla comics. Remember the Godzilla comics?
Oh yeah,
from Marvel. I used to love those just because Godzilla was on the cover, and I don't know where I lived. It was like you couldn't really find comic books like in order. I don't know why that was, but like it didn't seem like one month they would come out with Godzilla, and the next month when the next issue came out, you just some other comic book. So you'd have to wait like just for whenever they got it. It was basically 7-Eleven, so it's whatever they got is what you got.
Right.
And so when I get those Godzilla comics or Shogun Warriors or anything or like Man Wolf, there's a couple episodes or Spider-Man comics where he was fighting the Man Wolf.
Yeah.
And that was always cool. And other thing I want to say about that creature that's on here is you can tell, this artist is a little more comfortable, I think, and he's a little more refined than the previous ones. You can always tell these artists that they're a little more comfortable drawing the artists, and they're not quite yet comfortable with the Star Wars world yet.
Oh yeah.
So when they mix it, because this is really loosely drawn snake creature type thing, like they've done that before. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to say R2D2 and C3PO, I think the details are off almost because they don't know,
right,
or they're trying too hard, or to try, it's like it's not a comfortable fit yet. But I kind of like that.
Right.
Mashing of two worlds.
I can definitely see that now that you said that.
Yeah. And another big selling point for me as a kid was the fact that they're in water. You have Luke, R2, and 3PO standing on the hull of the ship, and Luke is firing at the big sea serpent, but yet they're in the ocean, which to me said something new, a new world we have not seen before. So I was really, really excited about that. So I do recall tearing this out of the rack of the Oakley Spa and throwing down my 35 cents. And I think I read the whole comic, which I'd never really done before. I was always a picture person right there in the parking lot.
Wow.
So I was so excited about this.
Well, and all the good stuff is at the end. At least that's shown in this picture.
Yeah. I do. That's a good point because I do recall going, "Where's Luke?"
Yeah.
All right, now let's go into some Facebook comments because, like always, we put this cover out on Facebook and we had quite a number of reactions.
All right, so
Brian Young of the Full of Sith podcast, he says, "I love these issues. Star Wars needs more swashbuckling sea monster stories with pirates."
Nice. Well, Chikafent, they say, this is a nice example of how a cover would get a kid's attention when they saw it on the newsstand.
Booyah.
Wow. The bright yellow background, a scary-looking sea monster. Snakes are scary. Nice action with Luke and the droids in peril, and who wouldn't pick up an issue that provides the fate of Luke Skywalker?
That's every selling point that sold me as a kid.
Right?
Now, Randy, what Facebook comment really stuck out to you?
Oh, I always like the more off-color ones, which looks like C-3PO is wearing a thong.
Yeah, that came in from Donald Wicks.
Yes, Donald Wicks.
Now, Brian Sims brings up a good one. Is it just me, or does it say Indiana Jones Adventure at Disneyland? I like the cover. The yellow with Luke and the droids has a Star Wars feel. Some covers in this time period lost it for me. So he brings up a good point. This monster does look a lot like the Eye of Mara.
Right.
Like the snake that comes out and tries to bite you.
Yeah, we got quite a few comments from people saying that same thing, that looks like something from the Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland.
How funny.
Which is interesting in talking about the age group, though, because back when we picked this up, there was no Indiana Jones ride. There wasn't any Indiana Jones.
Yeah? Very true.
Very true.
Wow.
Now, Drew Kaplan says, this reminds me a lot of the beginning of the animated sequence in the Star Wars Holiday Special. Before Boba Fett shows up to save them. That was a reference I was making a little bit earlier on, that there is a nod toward the Star Wars Holiday Special, and that's it right there. And toward the end, the last panel screams the Holiday Special.
But yeah, we have to get into that because I have some questions about that. So.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let's read one more here from Amanda Backen.
So, if the blaster isn't working, maybe try the lightsaber? Now, but at this point, Luke doesn't... Well, I guess he has the lightsaber, but...
Yeah, well, look how far away that snake is.
Yeah.
The lightsaber is more of a
He's like right
close-range
there.
weapon. Right.
Yeah, he hasn't learned that throwing lightsaber move yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, poor guy's learning it on his own. I mean, he only had swung around with a little ball a couple times with Obi-Wan. That was pretty much all the training he had at that point.
It's true.
And he did have Splinter of the Mind's Eye, too.
Was that written yet? I don't think it was written yet.
It was toward the end of 77 and it was released in March of 78. This was released in February of 78, so I'm sure they had written them side by side, but I know for sure the two authors did not get together and say, okay, what are you writing? Now, what are you writing? They were just so...
They weren't,
yeah,
they weren't collaborating.
None whatsoever.
Wow.
All right, now, with that, let's get on to the story of Star Search. Now, Randy, go ahead and explain this first splash page here.
Well, we, of course, have the Millennium Falcon, which tells us that this isn't a comic book about Luke. This is a comic book about Han. And they're leaving a... Well, first, I want to say thank you to Richard and Sarah, if you helped them with this. This is the one comic book that I do not own.
Oh.
Out of all of the issues, I don't have issue 11. So the Skywalkers went ahead and took photos of all the pages of the comic for me and sent it to me via email. So thank you very much for that. So sometimes, like I was saying, I can't tell if they're leaving an egg-shaped planet or if that's just because the bow of the paper is taking a photo of it.
No, that's
So
egg.
you're going to have to help me with it. Is it egg-shaped?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not quite
sure
spherical. Yeah.
Yeah, so egg-shaped, it's... I hate this word, but I guess it's pretty on a little wonky. The Millennium Falcon is a little bit.
Yeah.
Which always is kind of weird to me because I mean there were plenty of references out by this time, I think, of the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
To take references as well. But whatever, I mean, the left side of it is looking good, but the rest of it's a little suspect.
Well, if this was released in February of 78, when do you think the art would have been completed by?
Probably December.
Okay, so they probably had not a whole lot of reference, but enough to get the ship right. And those...
There's probably tons of photos out there, and it was still in theaters, right?
Oh yeah. It's out there for another couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, the narration boxes, they're trying to catch the reader up on what the Millennium Falcon is and its past in Star Wars. Now, do you feel like they're just buying time here? Because I think at this point we all know what the Millennium Falcon is, and why do we really need to know that information?
No, I don't think they just threw it. I think it's actually helpful because, as we remember, it's not like there was multiplexes all over in Star Wars in every single neighborhood. There's still a lot of neighborhoods where you had to drive really far to go see Star Wars. So you might not have seen this movie. You might have heard about it, but you might not know anything about it. So by 78 in February, there's a lot of people out there who still hadn't seen the movie yet.
It felt like to me like Archie Goodwin was trying to catch up with himself, and this was his primer.
Yeah.
Now, the next page is dedicated to catching the readers up on the last 4 issue, and that story arc with the Magnificent 7 characters, and Han even equates his pal Chewbacca with Spider-Man. He calls him a friendly neighborhood Wookiee.
Yes. I loved that.
I thought that was hilarious. And then, after assuming in the last issue that Hedgie the porcupine guy had been killed, well, it is now confirmed here as Han thinks about those who were lost during the Cloud Rider attack, and we do see Hedgie being blasted.
Thank you. It's like the panel that was forgotten in the previous
Yeah.
episode. It's like, oh,
Like, wait a minute,
wait.
didn't you put that in
you put
issue
that
number
in?
10?
No?
I thought you did it.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you know what? Just stick it in.
Stick it in, stick it in, do it.
Yeah, they won't notice.
Yeah.
So yeah, here is the lost panel right there. So we do know that Hedgie has been killed.
Although I should say it looks like he's just kind of drifting off into dreamland.
Don't confuse us.
But there's a red background there.
Yeah, oh, that's very true.
Yeah, and explosions.
That's
So.
very true. Now, what do we think of Carmine Infantino's interpretation of Han and Chewie? Is he going forwards or backwards?
Well, I think you got to talk about either character if you're going to talk about going backwards and forwards. I think Chewbacca is still not there, but they're getting better at it. I think he's a little more consistent. I still never understood why they make his whole face kind of a tan color or a peach color, the whole thing. But I think as far as the composition of his face, people are starting to get it. This artist is starting to understand it. As far as Han goes, he's still not consistently drawn the whole way through. Yeah. He looks like a different guy in everything there. And so I guess there was not a whole lot of pictures of Harrison Ford back then.
But I have a real problem about how he portrays Leia.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
I know.
Now, Sarah, seeing how this is your first time reading this comic, when you see Chewie like this, what's your impression?
At this point, I've taken it with a grain of salt. For me, when I read comics, honestly, I mostly focus on the word bubbles and what they're talking about and what they're saying. And even though I'm an artist and artistic, for some reason, like when there's words presented to me, I concentrate on those first.
Okay.
That's just how I am with comics. So, I kind of tend to gloss over the pictures while I'm reading the story.
Well, this always bothered me as a kid because it looks like someone took a Bic to Chewbacca's face and just shaved all around his eyes and his nose. And just as Howard Chaykin was getting him right in the last few issues, now we have bald-faced Chewie again. And that just always really bothered me. And I figured because they didn't want to make his whole face dark so you wouldn't be able to see his expressions.
Right.
But I think where there's a will, there's a way. So, Randy, I think we have your Celebration Orlando piece. Bald-faced Chewie.
Or how about just shaved Chewie?
Oh. I wonder how skinny he'd be.
Yeah. All right, now, in the story, Han decides to go back and join Luke and Leia on Yavin 4 because it's a shrewd strategy, he says, and does not want to lose his standing as a mercenary. Now, what does that mean?
Yeah!
So once again, he wants to go back to Yavin 4 because it's a shrewd strategy and does not want to lose his standing as a mercenary.
That doesn't make sense. It's like saying two opposite things.
That's what I got. Randy, What did you get out of that?
Yeah, it's a little confusing, but I think they just want to keep the idea that he's a pirate mercenary, not really part of the rebellion type of thing.
Then why would he be going back to Yavin 4 to see Luke and Leia?
Because it's his only move, really. I think he's just trying to convince himself that he's keeping true to himself.
Interesting. Okay.
So he's talking.
It's like justifying. As long as I have this little piece of cake, I'm still on my diet.
All right, point well taken.
Yeah, that works.
Randy, you should have been the one writing those little editor's notes boxes. All right, now from here, Han blasts into hyperspace for one panel.
That's awesome panel, by the way.
Yeah, he hits the sublight engines in the next panel. So I guess it was a one-panel jump, and he's met by a charging Star Destroyer. Only it's not the Empire. Sarah, who is it?
It's Crimson Jack! Twitter painted!
Now, Crimson and his band of space pirates pull the Millennium Falcon and the Star Destroyer with their tractor beams.
Yeah, it's totally a Star Destroyer.
Yeah, so what happened is that Crimson Jack and his band of space pirates had hijacked the Star Destroyer.
Oh, okay.
Didn't think that could ever happen.
Wait, did they say that in the comic?
It's coming up.
Oh, okay, because I totally missed that.
It's coming up.
All right.
Now, there's a shot here of the charging Star Destroyer to the Millennium Falcon. But the way this is portrayed here, it's like this thing is hauling butt.
And you know what that reminds me of? Spaceballs. Da-da. Da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. And it goes on for like 2 minutes. Like the big ship going over you. That was fun.
It's interesting in terms of talking about the movies and the speed of things. Because really, even in normal life, when you look at a car going by. You know, it looks like it's going 60 miles an hour. It looks like it's going by real fast. But you look up at the sky and you see a plane going by. It looks like it's barely moving. But just because it's so far away, it's actually going very, very fast, as we all know.
Right.
Well, in the reality, if you had ships out in space and they are moving quite fast and you have nothing but space behind it, nothing to judge it, it wouldn't look like it's really moving that fast until it got really close to you.
Right.
And then it would go really fast. So I think, in the original A New Hope, Han refers to the Star Destroyers or the ships as being fast ones. They're fast,
Okay.
you know? And I can't remember exactly what the line was, but I always remember that.
Right.
It seemed like they put that dialogue in there on purpose to let you know that they might be big and they look like they're slow, but they're not. They're really fast, and they'll creep up on you real fast.
Yeah, according to this panel, these things can haul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now Han Solo and Chewie are captured by Crimson Jack, and now we get a real 70s cliche coming up where Crimson Jack thinks for some reason that Han may have another treasure aboard the Millennium Falcon he could steal again, even though he just stole his treasure a couple of issues ago.
Right.
Where would he get another one? But then Han thinks, all right, well, you know what? You can kill us, but you'll never find the treasure, which is what was the plot of every action-packed 70s TV show. All those cop dramas and, oh, you know what? You're going to kill me, but you know what? You'd never find the treasure. And for some reason, Crimson Jack falls for it. But at this point, Han finds out that he's not the only one, he and Chewie, who have been captured. Princess Leia is also there, too. She's been captured when she was out looking for Luke. Crimson Jack had kidnapped her, too, and thinks, well, you know what? If she's part of the rebellion, I can get a pretty hefty ransom for her.
Now, wait, that's Princess Leia?
Yeah.
What?
Didn't you recognize her without the space bra?
I'm so confused.
Yeah.
What is up with her face? And those eyebrows. I'm sorry. No one has eyebrows like that.
Well, apparently she does.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it bugs me. What about you, Randy, like as an artist?
Yeah, it's always a little weird because with the way this artist portrays Princess Leia, because it really doesn't look like Carrie Fisher at all.
Yeah.
But I will give the artist this, and it never really bugged me. But he's consistent. She always looks like this character with the way that they draw her, and she does. I mean, if you look at this artist's work, whenever he draws Princess Leia, she always has these features. So I think, at least in those terms, I think it's important to have some consistency, like they're starting to get with Chewbacca, even though he's got the shaved off face, but he still looks like the same shaved off face Chewbacca in most of the panels. But Han, they're still having some problems with.
Yeah.
All right, now here, Crimson Jack tells Jolly. Now, is it Jolly or Jolie? It's Jolli.
I always said Jolie in my head.
Yeah.
I was probably because it was in the news. I said Jolie, like Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
All right. You know, we're gonna say her name is Jolie.
Yeah.
Now he tells Jolie that put your blaster on a very slow burn and start firing at Han until Leia tells me where the rebel base is, and that's pretty grim, even for a Star Wars comic. That's pretty grim there.
I didn't know blasters could do that. I don't think that's canon, though. Wow.
But then Chewie, being Chewbacca and serving a life debt, he stands in front of Han and starts throwing around these thugs and pirates like rag dolls.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Luke Cage.
And Han grabs the blaster and aims at Crimson Jack, who uses Princess Leia as a shield.
Yikes.
Now,
No, I think you kind of glossed over something here. Chewbacca takes a blast.
Oh, he
Well, that
does.
slow burning thing, and they even talk about it. It says giant Wookiee needs no further instructions, with speed seemingly impossible. So apparently he's fast. We found that out in the last story. For his great bulk, he is up against and moving.
Moving into blasts meant to kill slowly.
Yeah, so he's got superpowers too. We didn't know about.
yeah, you know what? I did skip over that, and I didn't even realize that was the blast bouncing off of Chewbacca.
Yeah.
It just looked like something that was exploding maybe in front of them. But yeah, you're right, because the next panel, we don't see any kind of burn mark on Chewie.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was a slow burn, then maybe it wouldn't. But I expect to see maybe some singed hair.
I was going to say it was a superpower because it was slow burn. It just singed the hair. It didn't get to the skin.
Right.
Well, okay, then Han goes on about the treasure and says, hey, you know what? I'm very willing to share it with you. And Crimson Jack says, all right, you know what? I got some time. I'm game. So invites Han and Chewie up to the bridge of the Star Destroyer, which looks more like the lounge on the Love Boat. You have these big green Barca loungers, and everyone's kicking back. Some drinks being served.
This is so funny.
Yeah.
I think Crimson Jack brought his own furniture aboard this Star Destroyer.
Right.
But what I love is the fact that he's got a drink in his hand and he's completely reclined back on this green lounger. It's like, how do you drink in that position?
So Captain Jack is getting a little antsy, and he wants to put this plan in motion, and he wants to make sure that the princess cooperates.
Right.
Because she's part of the rebellion, and they're going after this rebellion reward. And Han says, you know what, slow down here, Jack. I happen to know this princess, and you know what, on our last mission, the two of us fell in love.
And to make his point, he decides to
he goes for it.
Make out with Princess Leia. And as they're making out, it's a long time, and he's like, they're discussing plans in a committee. Like, as they're supposedly making out, it's like, how are these guys not hearing this?
Well, in animation, and even on sitcoms or television, you never hear when someone's whispering.
Oh, okay.
That goes
2 feet
without
away.
saying. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny, but I was floored to see Han and Leia making out right there before their famous scene in Empire Strikes Back.
You like me because I'm a scoundrel. There aren't enough scoundrels in your life.
I happen to like nice men.
Nice man.
Very nice.
Right.
Whoa.
But Leia doesn't sense 3PO will be here anytime soon, so takes matters into her own hands and wraps Han Solo in the head. And she makes up her own plan. She knows how Han's plans go, and so says, you know what, take me back to my cell. I'm done with this. Now, Leia's plan is to get them into the Drexel system to I guess, find Luke. Why would she lead Crimson Jack and the gang to Luke?
I think that was like her mission all along, so any way she can get there, she's kind of using Crimson Jack as a jumping off point.
As an Uber system?
Yes.
To get to Luke?
Yeah.
All right. Now, Jolie brings Leia, who suddenly looks Asian, back to her cell, and the two have some girl time.
Yes.
Now, Sarah, what are you making out of this? Because Leia tells Jolie that Han does kiss well, and that brings up some anger in Jolie, and some anger she can't even justify.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Jolie had a crush on Han that she wasn't even, telling herself that she had. So anytime you find yourself jealous of another woman who has another guy, you obviously want that guy.
Now, did anything stick out to you, Randy, about this girl time they had?
See, I thought Jolie was interested in Princess Leia.
Exactly.
Leia.
Exactly.
What?
That's what I thought.
Jolie seems like a man-hater.
Whoa!
And she's like putting the moves on Leia, and Leia's like saying, yeah, he's a good kisser. And she's like, ah.
I gotta read this again.
And that's when she starts going crazy.
Yeah.
And kicks the door with a clong.
Keep your thoughts on men and kissing to yourself is her parting words. Ah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
And look how she's all stretched out there when she's in Leia's cell.
Look at that, Richard. Look at that.
Slow down. Slow down. All right, where are we? Okay, now that she's gone, Leia's got some time to herself, and now she's thinking about one young man, Luke Skywalker. And there's a montage of scenes from Star Wars with she and Luke,
and apparently Darth Vader from the Magical Mystery Tour.
What?
With his glasses. He has those square John Lennon glasses that he wore in the Magical Mystery Tour.
That's funny. And then, you know what? On the same panel on page 199, you see Luke and Leia swinging over the ridge. Only when I first saw that, if you see Leia's on the right side, and then you see legs coming from Leia to her right,
yeah.
I thought Those were her legs at first.
Right.
And then I was like, whoa, that's wow. But then I realized, oh, those are Luke's legs, and Leia has the dress. Yeah.
She got man legs.
Yeah.
And now, while she's in the cell, these panels serve a double purpose.
Okay.
One, they're retelling the events of Star Wars, and they're telling the reader to catch them up on where Luke Skywalker is and how she went out looking for him after he vanished, looking for a new rebel base in the Drexel system.
Right.
So I think instead of doing it all in the front end, they're doing it right now, which I thought was a brilliant move.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you don't load the reader down with all this exposition.
Mm-hmm.
But this was something I've never seen done before.
I don't know, they did really well with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now back in the ship's bridge, Jack is getting annoyed that his map doesn't show much of the Drexel system, and this panel raises a lot of questions and analogies.
Why is that?
Now, first of all, what kind of bridge has two Barca loungers?
A light green and a light blue one.
And question 2. Why are Han's pants so tight in the rear?
Yes, I did notice that.
Yeah. Oh, go on.
Just like you noticed Jolie in that last cell.
Slow down. All right. And now, number 3. Why is Robin Hood standing in the middle of the frame? There's a guy standing there literally in a Robin Hood outfit. He's got the pointy green hat. He's got the tights. Did he just walk into the wrong comic?
I think so, but he is wearing a blaster belt, so somehow they managed to give him that before he went on stage.
Now, once again, pulling up another Force Awakens analogy.
Okay.
That they're looking for the Drexel system, but yet they can't find it.
Oh.
Just like they couldn't find the missing piece where Luke is, because they're all looking for Luke.
Right.
Rey is looking for Luke. And they can't find that missing piece. Right now they're looking for Luke again, and they can't find the missing piece that would lead them to the Drexel system.
Interesting.
So I think J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan have got a lot to answer for.
All right, so do we leave this party?
Now from there we smash cut, and Luke's ship has crashed in the ocean. And just like on the cover, he's firing at this horrific red sea dragon while the droids are hanging on for dear life.
Awesome.
Now, I got a question here, Randy. What is R2 doing?
No idea.
Can you explain this, please?
I can't. I don't know. I mean, I used to do that with my toy when I was a kid. I don't know what it meant back then either.
So his legs, one leg is pointing forward and one leg is pointing backwards. It's like, I didn't know his legs could do that.
Well, he could still stand upright.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I guess he's magnetizing, but look, he got like little treads right there.
Looks like it.
Yeah, so R2 now has got 4 legs. He's got the 2 legs that we normally see, and they're outstretched, like he's trying to balance himself.
Right.
And then he's got these 2 rolling treads on his bottom.
Wait a minute, is that supposed to be 3PO?
Yeah, and next to him is, I think, is C-3PO?
Now, on the cover and here, his legs are bent in non-C-3PO fashion. C-3PO is not that flexible. Poor guy.
And he's huge.
Yeah, he's like a hulking beast, kind of like K2SO.
He's like Ultron.
Indeed.
Yeah, and we find out something else about C-3PO.
Okay.
Not only does he hate space travel, but he also hates swimming.
Oh, that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. It would make a lot of sense.
And he also hates sand.
And he hates sand. I think
Yes.
everyone hates sand. But now let's really focus in on R2 and 3PO. Now, like I was asking at the very beginning, Randy, how come these artists can never get R2-D2 right? The panels in his body are just all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's either there wasn't much reference, or I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's weird.
Well, if you think
That's
about
the only
it,
thing I think is just there wasn't much reference at the time.
yeah, if you think about it back then, I mean, sure they could have, maybe Lucasfilm could have given them pictures, but back then you couldn't pop in your DVD player and freeze frame it on, a particular frame.
No, you had to just go to hopefully there was pictures in like Starlog or something like that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, or they could have called up someone over in the archive department and say, hey, we really need a couple of pictures of R2-D2 from the front, from the side, from the back. That would really help us out.
Yeah.
But there's no archives department yet.
Yeah, I guess not.
When you're in the moment, there's no archives.
Okay. Well, all right. So this scene, Luke is on the sea. He's battling a sea creature. Now, the holiday special. Can we talk about that? What happens before Boba Fett arrives in that panel? Because that's what I didn't remember from the holiday
Luke
special.
crashes his Y-wing into the ocean, and he's got 3PO with him, and he's attacked just like this by a giant sea beast.
Okay, he is.
Until Boba Fett comes to the rescue.
Maybe I can help you. I am Boba Fett.
Right.
Like we're going to see in a couple of panels here that there is another green sea beast with a rider on top that has been helping Luke. But right before that, R2 has gotten Luke and 3PO to an escape pod in the ship, and they've blasted away. So now they're pretty safe.
Okay.
And Luke is looking through his macro binoculars, and that's when he sees this rider come up on this green sea beast.
Okay. So Luke and the droids are fighting this creature. They manage to get inside the ship that's sinking and blast out in a
escape pod.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Now, as a kid, when I saw the holiday special with Boba Fett, my mind did go back to this.
Okay.
Because I thought, wait a minute, where have I seen this before?
Right. And that's what I felt when I was reading this. I was like, wait a minute, this is kind of like a scene from the holiday special.
It's pretty much the same thing, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
except for Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Randy, we end on this half a splash page. Now, artistically, tell us what's going on in this one panel here.
I think it's really well drawn in terms of the water and stuff, and the worm's face has changed a little bit, but I think it's calmed down. The whole ocean's calmed down to kind of, I think, give the feeling of the situation is calmed down. This person that comes with the green sea serpent, is bringing some calm to the situation. So I think the emotion of the scene is captured well.
Now, what do you make of this color scheme? You have the red sea dragon, you have the green beast that the rider is riding on, you have the yellow sky and the blue ocean.
I think it's really pretty.
Yeah.
It's got, red, yellow, blue, green, blue. You got half the rainbow there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy throwing all those that many stark different colors in a piece, but they did well with it. I think it's cool.
And then we're left with a cliffhanger there because we don't know who this rider is. We don't know how Luke is going to get out of this. Mm-hmm. And now this sea creature is looking very, very angry. He's just not happy about what's going on.
No.
All right, so Randy, what are your overall thoughts now about this issue? Have they changed? Are they the same?
No, I really liked this issue. I didn't mind that the cover featured Luke, but we only get a little bit at the end. I like that this story is continuing with Han Solo and Princess Leia and with the space pirates. I think that it shows more of Han Solo's character. I think they capture more of his kind of, he is a mercenary, a pirate, but he's still basically a guy. He's like, he's not quite Jack Sparrow, because Jack Sparrow is a pirate of pirates, but he's not. Jack Sparrow's also not Blackbeard. He still has a good heart. So basically right there. But I my favorite part actually going over this again is going back to the Luke scenes. Not because it's Luke Skywalker or anything, but I really like the way that it's illustrated. This whole back part of it. I mean, the water. The way it's illustrated is beautiful. It's really, really, really good artists in draftsmanship, and there's a lot of action, great colors, a lot of good panel-to-panel, storytelling, and then of course we get some of the banter between R2-D2 and C-3PO, which actually makes me think of a general question in Star Wars. And then you guys can tell me what you think, and the fans, you guys can all think about this and write what you think. Does R2-D2 even like C-3PO? Is there ever any evidence that he actually likes C-3PO, or is he like, I can't freaking get rid of this guy?
I think he just knows that the two are partners, so he works with 3PO on that level there. I think if R2 had to save 3PO's mechanical life, he would definitely be there for him.
Well, he does kind of in the clone facility, doesn't he? Not the clone.
The foundry, the droid foundry.
Yeah, the droid foundry.
It pulls his head off of the.
Yeah.
So, but that saved for that. there's really no evidence that R2 even likes C-3PO because he's always, knocking him or has some smart aleck comment for him. And then in the first one, like, he's ready to just leave. He's like, all right, you don't want to come with me? That's fine. I'll go my own way. Like, he has no questions about it.
Well, I think R2 just always knows better. So, you know what? You can follow me or you can stay here and rust. I know what's going to go on.
And he's like, look, I know this whole story. I'm the only one that knows.
Yeah, right?
So, whatever you're going to do.
So, if you don't want to follow me, that's fine. But I know how this ends.
Well, I'm siding with I don't think he likes C-3PO.
Okay.
Are you thinking about the scene in Jabba's sail barge where it knocks him over the edge?
That too. That was an opportunity.
Oh.
I think R2 devised this whole plan just so he can knock 3PO off that sail barge.
I don't know.
You got Luke captured. You got Leia captured. It was his idea just so he could knock 3PO into the sand. How's that?
I don't know. I think Skywalkers chime in at Skywalking Pod. Tell Richard he's kind of full of it sometimes.
And when he's pulling the disassembled C-3PO and the Millennium Falcon at the end of The Empire Strikes Back, he's having a lot of fun just knocking him around.
Yeah, he's just zapping. It's almost like they're more like siblings.
Yes.
And he doesn't really like this guy, but he's my brother, so I have to put up with him. But I really don't like him.
I think that's the best analogy right there.
Yeah.
More like brothers who just don't like each other, always fighting, but when it comes down to it, they'll always have each other's backs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, I really like this issue just because we saw a lot of action. I love the fact that we're bringing back characters like Crimson Jack. Mm-hmm. That's always such a good feeling for me, knowing that they're not just story arc characters, that we're going to see them again and maybe again and hopefully again. So I love that. And then once again, love the big sea monster. Love me some creatures. And I love the fact that they're in this tumultuous ocean fighting this creature and the waves are splashing and you don't know what's going to be the end of Luke and the droid. Will it be this big sea creature or will it be these crashing waves? So there was really a lot to this, and I love Han's thought process trying to get out of these situations and how he goes for it with Leia.
Yeah.
Thinking, hey, you know what? There's an opportunity right here. I'm going for this. So we do that. To me, is pure classic Star Wars Han Solo.
Okay.
So now I just can't wait to see what's going to happen in this next issue. And I hope they do really focus on Luke a little bit more. And then eventually maybe have a story arc with Luke and Leia and the droids for maybe 2 or 3 issues. And then I want to see the gang back together again. That's what I want to see.
Okay.
All right, Randy. Now let's get into some favorites here. What is your favorite panel of this issue?
My favorite panel is on page 202, and that would be the big splash page coming back to Luke with the big water sea serpent. I just really think that, like I said, this whole second half or third of this comic was really well illustrated. Lots of action, lots of great color. It's just drawn really well. And but I love the water. And water is not an easy thing to illustrate, especially when it's being splashed around and violently moving around. It's not easy, and making it look like water. And I think they did. This guy is obviously drawn a lot of water, and but and then how do you do that? How do you make something as sublime as just water exciting? And it is. It's really exciting. It adds to the storytelling, and everything else is maybe C-3PO and R2-D2 don't look like they do technically in the movies, stuff like that, but I'm not looking at that for this piece. I'm just looking at what's exciting, what's drawn really well in the composition, and so that's my favorite panel.
Nice.
All right. Sarah?
All right, for me, it started with this first panel, splash page, on page 189 with the Millennium Falcon, because
let's tell everyone that when we say the page number, this is for the omnibus.
Yes.
The Dark Horse omnibus.
Yeah. So that was initially my favorite because I just love anything with the Millennium Falcon, and I love that big, nice sky there, the galaxy.
And the egg-shaped planet?
Exactly. But then I came to page 197 where Han grabs Leia and they're kissing. And for me, That is very nostalgic because that Empire Strikes Back scene just always, it's like my favorite part of Star Wars ever. So anything to bring back, I just all about the romance. So I like it, and I think they did a good job because you can't see Leia's eyebrows, so it doesn't bug me.
All right. That is a very good panel there.
Yeah.
But now the background is yellow in the panel.
Okay.
What do you suppose that means? It's not red.
No.
Like when she hits Han in the head, then the panel turns red.
Well, it's not red, it's not romantic, it's just, they're getting down to business,
Very neutral.
Yeah, so it's not romantic necessarily, but the fact that they're kissing, it just overrides everything for me, because I'm a girl.
Maybe there's like a 70s kind of like a strobe of different colors going on.
Ooh. Yeah.
Well, in this panel, it's a mustard yellow. Next panel, it's black. Then it turns red. So what is the lighting situation on the Star Destroyer?
I think it's just more their...
Symbolically.
Yeah.
I know,
symbolic.
okay. So now my favorite panel comes on page 190. And this is when Han is reflecting from the past story arc and all of his friends that helped them protect this village of Onakra.
The Seven Samurai.
Seven Samurai, yeah. And we see a hero's posing stance, as if these characters were going to be made into
a movie
statue
poster. No, it's
statues and put in the middle of the village to say these are our heroes. This would be the statue that these sculptor would. It's
like at the end of Avengers 2.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. You'll get the big hero page.
Yeah.
The big hero stance, and this would be the movie poster if this was to be a movie. So I love that we get to see all the characters. A great shot of Jackson. And there's Don Juan Quixote, and I'm not sure what he's holding.
Well,
Magician's wand.
Yeah, I was going to say. It's
that's
like a
not,
wand.
It's you, Rich.
Yeah, I'll take that, but I don't think the artist read the last issue and said, oh yeah, he should have a red lightsaber, shouldn't he?
Wow.
I'm just saying. So this is my favorite panel right there, because it's a heroic pose that summarizes the last story arc.
Okay, so let's get into our favorite line of dialogue. So Randy, do you have a favorite line?
Yeah, it's pretty short, but I like it. It's when Leia says he does kiss well.
Nice.
And since we all relate with us guys, we all want to be Han Solo.
Yeah.
And we all want to think girls think that about us. That they don't tell us, but we want them to think that, and they tell other girls, "Oh yeah, he does kiss well."
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, sweetie, what do you say about me? Watch your answer.
Yes, you kiss very well.
Oh, no, I'm not sure how to take that.
Pillows. I told you.
All right, enough personal stuff. All right, sorry everybody.
All right. Well, okay. Well, do you want to tell your
Okay, I will.
line?
This is when they're on the bridge of the Star Destroyer and they're kicking back in these green Barca loungers. And Jolie says to Han Solo, "I'll fill your face with the business end of my blaster, you Corellian conniver."
Wow.
They love their alliterations.
Yeah.
You Corellian conniver.
Goodness.
Just to let you know, I will be using that quite a bit.
Okay. Good to know. All right, can I go to my
Yes.
favorite line here?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, here. All right, so this is a line from Crimson Jack when he is talking to Han Solo, but he has Leia as a captive. And so Crimson Jack says, "Solo, I trust you about as much as I'd trust riding a spice keg through a meteor swarm."
What is that?
That just sounds awesome. I know. Okay, so there's spice mines in Kessel.
Right.
What's a spice keg? You don't know?
You see those big kegs at parties full of beer?
Right.
I'm seeing him running one of these big,
Spice.
this big metal canister through space with a tap.
Wow. A spice keg through a meteor swarm. Wow.
All right. Randy, what is your most non-Star Wars line of dialogue or moment in this issue?
It wasn't so much a line or a moment. You'd called attention to this while we were going over the issue, and it is you referred to him as Peter Pan. In the middle of the bridge. I think he looks more like an elf to me, like one of Santa's elves with that hat. And that one just kind of took me out of the moment for a second, even more than a guy in a leotard.
Wow.
It's just, and on top of it, it's a V-neck blouse he's wearing.
Well, that's
with
70s.
Yeah.
with a elf hat on, and it's just like you were saying, like, did he step onto the wrong set? He's like, oh man,
Yeah. Wow.
am I on the wrong set again?
That's funny.
I think that would be my runners-up.
Okay.
But my most non-Star Wars line of dialogue or moment would be the time when, as Han and Chewie are being captured, Han says to Jack, "You gotta call off your men, Jack. You've got the firepower to take us out, but it'll be very rough, gloating without a head."
Whoa.
Yeah, that's...
Han doesn't usually talk like that.
No, unless you're a Sith or a Jedi about to become a Sith, you shouldn't be beheading anybody.
No.
So I thought that was a very non-Star Wars moment.
Okay. And my non-Star Wars moment was when Han, we kind of mentioned it earlier, when Han says, he's not about to lose my standing as a mercenary.
Right, the whole shrewd strategy line.
Yeah,
How is
where
it?
he wants to go back to Yavin 4, but not lose his standing as a mercenary because apparently you have ranks.
Right.
I don't understand that.
'Cause like Randy was saying,
Yeah.
I think he's trying to talk himself into it.
Right, but,
Yeah.
well, yeah. But, I mean, also, in The New Hope, he kind of made a trajectory as a character and kind of, I don't know if he left that life
Came back
behind.
to save Luke.
Right. So in my mind, that kind of put him with the rebellion.
Well, that's always been a struggle in the later Han Solo stories, that
Right.
he wants to do what he's best at, that's smuggling, but how can he be a smuggler when everyone knows who he is?
Yeah.
So he's really caught between a rock and a hard place there.
Okay.
All right, now, finally, let's talk about the most valuable character of the issue.
Oh.
It's tough because you basically have two stories going on. You have the Luke story and you have the Han and Leia Chewie story. So, I mean, I just gave it to Han, since most of the 2/3 of the book is about that storyline, and he pretty much takes you through the whole thing.
Yeah, that was going to be my vote, too. And I don't really like to vote on the character that you would think would be the most valuable character. I like to find someone else who's doing just as good, but maybe not in the lead. But in this one here, Han is really thinking very quickly, thinking on his feet, trying to devise a plan as he goes along, even though that plan is something out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon with the whole, you know what, if you kill me, you'll never find the treasure. But still, it works.
Okay.
So, Han, you get my most valuable character of the issue. Sarah, that leaves you.
I'm going to go with Leia because just like she does in A New Hope, she sees that, Han doesn't really have much of a plan, and so she takes the lead and the reins and says, okay, this is what we're going to do to Crimson Jack. So, and then propels the story forward. So, I'm going to give it to Leia.
All right, fair enough. Now, what about Peter Pan over here?
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention, okay.
Miss Congeniality.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Guy who's walking in going, wait a minute, this is not DC. Where am I? All right, so with that, let's wrap things up for Star Wars issue number 11, Star Search, on this episode of Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics. Now, Randy, before we wrap things up, do you want to tell the Skywalkers what you're working on, aside from your Celebration Orlando print?
I actually can't. I can't talk about it. But it's Star Wars, and it should come out sometime early next year.
Oh, exciting!
Yeah, it did a lot of work for this project, but that's all I can tell you.
Is it for Rogue One?
No.
Would it come out?
I can tell you that.
Would it come out on the Star Wars Card Trader app?
No, it wouldn't do that.
Would it come out on the cover of a Marvel comic?
No.
He said it was Star Wars.
You're never gonna guess it.
Okay.
Well,
right.
hold on. You know what? We have time. Would it be?
No.
All right. I know how you are.
All right.
Yeah, but I do have I can tell you that I do have a couple of prints that are official prints that are coming out with Acme. I should have two of them coming out almost at the same time, but I'm excited about it. So when that comes out, you'll all definitely hear about that.
Awesome.
Can you at least tell us if you know things about Rogue One that the rest of the public does not know?
Not, maybe for like 10 days I did, in terms of just imagery, and things like that, because I needed to use the style guide and references. But I mean, it was like 10 days later, everything was out.
Okay.
So
Exciting.
nothing to the story. I don't know anything in terms of the story.
Right.
I mean, in terms of that we don't already know.
And that-
Like we don't know how it ends. We know how it ends.
We know something.
Yes. Oh, okay.
I wonder if the rebels ever do get the Death Star plans.
Yeah.
That has not been revealed yet.
But I can tell you the weirdest thing is that one of the character references, the weirdest one was this guy in a green V-cut blouse with an elf hat on.
What?
No.
I'm telling you, those people over at Disney these days are flipping through these comic books going, we can take that, we can take that, we can take that.
Well, they're your age, you guys.
They're like, what about this Crimson Jack guy? They're like, you know what? We saw a guy dressed as him. That's not going to play on camera.
Doesn't work. You know what? If we do have him, he's got to take off his beard.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hopefully when we do the next issue, you can tell us what all these secrets are. Because at that point, maybe they won't be secrets anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the Acme stuff will probably be out by then.
When will that be out?
And then that will be out maybe this month.
Oh.
Maybe this month. They're really busy with Rogue One stuff, obviously. So some of the final approval stage stuff is kind of slow, sort of, slower than normal. But basically, once it gets the approval, which it basically will, and then we go right to printing and press, and we can release it. Nice. So it's a little bit different situation with Acme in those terms, approval process as opposed to trading cards or things, which take a little while longer.
All right. So.
Other thing, actually, I wanted to say, exciting for fans to look for is, you guys might remember I did a bunch of artwork for Alien,
right?
For Upper Deck, and I did some cards for the Alien Anthology trading cards, and I signed those at Comic-Con. Well, there was another set that I actually worked on that I didn't tell anybody about. It's Aliens Versus System, and it's a card game that Upper Deck puts out. And I illustrated 10 pieces of art for that. It's actually a card game that you play. And so I was looking at some of the images online that are out there, and I have a lot more than 10 cards. They reused some of the artwork I did for Alien Anthology. And so I'm really excited about that. I want to get my hands on a box of cards so I can at least play it once using my cards,
So when you say Alien Versus, who is Alien versing?
I don't know. It's just how the game's played. Basically, it's just you've seen like Magic and things like that, card games.
You know what? I never got into that.
But I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
It's basically like I don't want to say it's the same gameplay, but it's like that or Pokemon that have words on the cards and you do certain things and things like that.
Okay. Now I know at the beginning of the show that you had given out your Twitter handle and Facebook page, but you know what? Do that one more time for people who are maybe listening to the show in chunks. If they want to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Okay, yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, the best thing to do is go to my Facebook, which look for Hollywood Randy. There's a photo of me, can't miss it. And then on Twitter, you can go to Randy_Martinez. And then for Instagram, go to Randy Martinez 40. And then the other thing, one last thing I wanted to give a little plug towards is my store, which is randymartinez.storeenvy.com. And I want to give you guys a heads up because I am actually going to, a lot of my paintings, I've been painting so much that I don't have any room space anymore.
Wow.
And I don't want them to really get damaged or anything as I'm painting here. So I got to get rid of some of these things. So if you come visit, I'll also advertise on my sites. I'm going to be slashing prices on some of these paintings, just to get them off my wall. So some of them have been a little pricey, but I'm gonna bring them down to a good price. So if anybody out there you've been having your eye on a painting, but haven't been able to afford it or something, then just come take a look at my store. I'm going to do that really soon, and check it out. And if you live in the USA, I take care of shipping. So
wow,
cool.
So this is original artwork that was once hanging on your wall.
Exactly, it's hanging on my wall. Some of it is original art that was used for Star Wars products and things like that.
Wow.
So yeah, nice. So it's a really. I was going to do it. Basically around Christmas, but I figured why not start now? Just start moving this stuff because, like I said, I'm starting to get paintings stacked up against the wall, and it's not good, Yeah. in terms of you don't want to kick anything, and also just sometimes you get tired of looking at the same paintings all the time.
All right, well, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-for-1 bonus.
Yeah. So come check it out. And then always doing commissions and stuff like that. So.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, let's wrap it up here then, and we'll see everyone back when we go over issue number 12, titled Doom World.
Wow.
Will that title stick? Stay tuned and find out.
And I have that issue.
Nice.
Oh, good.
Awesome. All right. Well, we would like to thank Rob Dellinger
The John Williams of podcasting.
for composing our intro theme. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can tweet us at SkywalkingPod. We are that for Twitter and Periscope and Instagram. We also have our Facebook group where we post the front page of these comics to get your input so that we can say it on the show.
And once again, thank you for everyone who wrote in with their feedback on the cover art. And unfortunately, we don't have time to always get to each and every one of them, but they are all looked at.
And we all read them.
We really appreciate you taking the time and critiquing.
That's right. And you can email us. We are share@skywalkingthroughneverland.com. So, until next time,
This is Richard.
this is Sarah
And this is Randy.
saying
For
Gronk.
And one last thing for the listeners who are still tuned in here, we want to thank everyone for tuning in to our last issue, which just went through the roof with downloads.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, you really tuned in, and you're really making this show something that people are starting to talk about. So thank you.
I wonder if it was the word behemoth. I mean, behemoth.
Maybe. And hey, you know what? If this all works out and I do end up going to Celebration, Denise will be going with me, so everybody will say hi to Denise.
Awesome.
Helping me at my table. But yeah, let's if that happens, let's work on something for all the fans to show them appreciation, and maybe we'll play a little music or something.
Oh, good deal. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Plans are in the works. A classic Marvel Star Wars comics meetup.
Maybe I'll have a new song by then. Skywalking is by your side.
Yeah,
No
why
good?
don't you take some time with this one, Randy?
Oh.
All right. Take care, everyone. Remember, be gone, defilers of the sacred way.
Borp. There we go.
Now,
She has the most life of all of us.
What?
You have the most life of all of us.
Oh, left.
Ahead of you.
That depends.
well, thanks, Randy. Thanks a lot.
Wow.
Gives me something to cut.
Yeah, right? Han kills the beast with the Jedi weapon.
Han kills the beast. You said Khan.
Okay.
Grabbing the lightsaber.
I got it.
Randy?
Yes.
Meanwhile.
Oh, okay. I lost my spot here. No, wait. You know what? You didn't give me that part.
Oh.
I didn't give you this next part?
Oh.
All right.
I only have the part that talks about.
All right. You know what? I'll just say, Randy, give me your favorite, your famous line, and you just say "meanwhile," and we'll continue.
Okay.
With the rest. Now, smash cut. Luke's ship has crashed in the ocean. One more time. You gotta blow your nose. Okay. Hold on. She's gonna blow her nose.
For composing our jingle. Why can't I say it?
Our intro theme.
Forp.
This is Richard. Wait, hold on.
Oh.
So until next time,